Hey, welcome to today's Aussie wristwatch. I'm Jessica Liley. I am your host. This is my little humble channel. And today I thought, why not? I know some people are probably like, it's a bandwagon. Every time a new watch comes out, someone does a video, but this is what I'm here for, to learn. And I noticed overnight, at the time of recording this, Tudor dropped a new Pelagos 39mm. So I thought I'd talk about that today. First of all, wrist check, because I always seem to get pulled up on this. I'm wearing I just had to double check. I should know from the heft of it, but it's my Panerai PAM 422, so it's 47mm, curved dome dial. It's probably one of, if not my favorite watch. All my two Panerais are my favorite watches, hands down. Notwithstanding, I also love my Omega Seamaster, which is actually here. Shameless plug right now for, there it is. I sell these, by the way. You can see them in the link in the description. I've got a number of different types. I've got the vintage leather, which are super popular. Everyone loves this, including my wife. She's got one of these that she travels with. She actually saw it when it was just like a prototype, and she was like, I want it. And I'm like, okay. And I've got these ones slightly fancier. They come in 1, 2 and 3 and in various colors, and the leather on these are slightly different for each. That one comes in 2 and 3 slot. Anyway, I digress. So Panerai on my wrist with a Horace strap, and today we're going to talk about Tudor Pelagos 39mm. And I should note, I've got a new mic on today, just one of those little lav lapel thingies. So hopefully the sound improves a little bit from, I've been using a tiny Rode microphone with varying effects, I think. You guys let me know. So look, just want to be really clear about this. I'm not on a Tudor bandwagon, I'm not on a Rolex bandwagon. I'm on the Jessica Liley is here to learn watches bandwagon. Tudor to me is a brand I've been vaguely aware of for a significant number of years. Just by walking past their stores in the streets of Melbourne when I worked in the city many years ago there. But other than that, no idea. Had no idea that it's the brainchild of Hans Wilsdorf, the guy who created Rolex. In fact, this brand I think was like mid-1940s Tudor, so about 40 years after he started Rolex. And, I'm going to go through the history, but the whole ethos, from what I understand of the brand, was to bring a high quality Rolex type make of a watch, but to a lower price point, so the everyday man, if I can put it that way, could afford to have that caliber of watch. I guess that's, pardon the pun. So from that point of view, I think, and we can get into the nuts and bolts of whether Tudor's achieved that, whether they're the poor man's Rolex, whatever you want. I don't know if that's not this video, but it's definitely worth a conversation later. I don't know if it's a fair comment anyway, just putting it out there. But in any event, that seems to be kind of where people sit with Tudor, And for me, it's just discovering a brand. And discovering a brand that seems to be, at least on face value, made exceptionally well at an okay price point. And when I say okay, I mean they're not cheap. They're definitely cheaper than a Rolex, yes. In fact, this watch is probably about half the price of like the equivalent, if you can call it an equivalent, of a Rolex Submariner. This watch we're talking about today is $6,000. But that's still a hunk of chunk of money, guys. So I get it's more affordable than $12,000 to $15,000. But, anyway, so let's talk about it. So, as I mentioned, Hans Wilsdorf launched Tudor in about 1946. So it's about 40 years after the inception of Rolex as we know it. And, it was built entirely on the premise of selling a watch at a more modest price that would attain the standards, and dependability of which the Rolex brand was famous for. And like I said, we won't talk about that today, but I will just briefly touch on the fact that, you know, given what I've read about these watches, what I've seen with these watches, the quality of the build, I think, you know, he's probably achieved that, to be fair. I'm happy for people to disagree in the comments because that's what the Friday fact check is for. But on face value, yeah, I think he's done that. Is it a poor man's Rolex? Again, another video. I don't think it's fair. Let's talk about the Pelagos backstory, because this wouldn't be a Aussie wristwatch review of sorts or a discussion, because we're not hands-on today, but without a little bit of history. So by the mid-50s, they launched sort of like the parallel Rolex model to the Immortal Submariner, right? And the James Bond had kind of made the Submariner super famous by this stage. And the equivalent of this was basically snapped up by scuba hobbyists kind of around the world. You know, it was a cased up Rolex signature watertight oyster screw down crown, and it was fitted with a cheaper outsourced mechanics. And the Tudor sub was basically an affordable kit for French Navy divers until the very early 1980s. So this is a solid almost 30-year reign in that environment. You know, but it was damaged by the quartz crisis, and I know I should do a video on this because it's something I need to actually learn about. But the 1970s, there was the quartz crisis when cheap Far Eastern imports hammered traditional craft of European watchmaking. Years ago, that the Heritage Chrono revived one of Tudor's groovy 70s water babies with the Monte Carlo dial. 2 years later, Tudor was hands down back in the game because they launched the Heritage Black Bay. I really love that watch. And again, I haven't been hands-on with that watch because getting into a Tudor store here is almost as difficult as getting into a Rolex store. I don't understand it, but anyway. But the Heritage Black Bay, I can't say that too fast, too quickly. It's a tongue twister for me and my lisp. But it's to me, it's a very cool looking watch. It's very retro. I really enjoy it. My wife hates it. I've shown her pictures of it. I'm like, what do you think of this? This is a cool watch. And she's like, meh. Kind of like how she feels about this shirt, to be honest with you guys. I had heaps of comments about this shirt, so I thought I'd wear it again. But she hates it. So anyway, it's very funny. Okay, so let's get to the Tudor Pelagos, right? Because this is basically their equivalent of the Submariner, and it's a hit. People love this watch, and it's a modern day diving watch. I can totally see how it harks to a Submariner in its look. It's simplistic. I love the look of this watch. I actually really like the look of this new 39mm versus like the blue watch that I think is very Pelagos. When I've seen people do reviews on Pelagos and take photos on Instagram and all that kind of stuff, they tend to have the blue dial watch, which looks cool. I mean, blue's my favorite color, but I think maybe because the black to me is very much an homage to the Submariner. I love the Submariner so much because it's just a classic watch. Maybe that's why I kind of lean in towards this one a little bit, but who knows. And it's also, I think, why I love the Heritage Black Bay, because that to me screams very early Submariner with like you remember the gold gilt we talked about in the watch dials? Yeah, that kind of look kind of comes back, that retro feel, and I really enjoy that. Right, so one of the reasons that the Pelagos has been so popular over a great many years is its price point and what you get in terms of value for money. So we'll talk about that a little bit with this watch as we go through. Like I said, the new watch is $6,000 online through the recommended retail or whatever you want to call it. That's still an awful lot of money. I mean, I think a Breitling Super Ocean Heritage is between $6,000 and $9,000. Are they the same kind of watch? That's a different conversation again, but it's just kind of putting in perspective Tudor, which to me, I don't know, for some reason I've got in my head a Tudor should be about 3,000 Australian dollars. Now, I think I've just plucked that number out of, well, honestly, fucking nowhere. But it comes back, I think, to that point of it's a Tudor, it's not a Rolex. It's meant to be a more affordable watch, which to me, is, you know, and $3,000 is still a lot of money, guys. I get that. I understand. I'm about to do a video on dive watches and break it down into a series of different price points. But $3,000 to me seems to be a sweet spot for that kind of watch. Whereas $6,000, I probably would prefer to spend my money on a Breitling. At $8,000, I'm back into Panerai territory. Now, I know people either love or hate Panerai. I love them, so that's all you're going to get from me on that. You know, what else are we talking about that's, so $6,000. I mean, Tag, I know some of you are going to roll your eyes at me, but I mean, I could buy another Monaco for that price. So, and that's an iconic watch. Is a Pelagos an iconic watch like a Tag Monaco? I'm going to say no, because I'm not a snobby watch collector. Some of you are probably going to be like, it's a fucking Tag. But yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I've gone off on a tangent as usual. So let's talk about the Pelagos, because notwithstanding the price tag, I think it's a really lovely watch. Now, it's got grade 2 titanium, luminescent ceramic composite monoblock hour markers, a rapid adjustment system for the clasp, and a diver's extension. It combines the professional dive watch heritage with the versatility of a 39mm case with a radiant sunray satin finish on its bezel and dial. Tudor says the Pelagos 39 is a compact and versatile traditional mechanical diver's watch. It's got a touch of elegance created by the shine of the sunray satin finishes on its dial and the insert on the bezel. So basically these guys are appealing to two markets with this watch, and it's pretty clear from the video and advertising campaign on the website. They are appealing to the sport watch divers market and swimming, any kind of water basically, and an elegant, upscale, casual, chic watch where they've got a sexy woman in the video, kind of lady about town with the watch, because it's 39 mils. You know me, guys, 39 mils is probably on the smaller side for me, but with a steel bracelet watch, that tends to be a really good size. Otherwise, it's very chunky. The big watches I wear tend to not have steel bracelets, so I think that offsets just how large they are on your wrist. With a steel bracelet, it's very in your face. Interestingly though, I should say this comes with a titanium bracelet, which I'm super keen to get my hands on, because imagine how light that's going to feel. It also comes with a complimentary rubber strap or bracelet, whatever you want to call it. And I think that's really fascinating, because you guys know, and actually I didn't plan it this way, but I've got it here. So you guys know I absolutely love my Seamaster, and that has a rubber strap, which is phenomenal. Like, I change this strap every now and then. I put different straps on it, including NATO. The NATO doesn't sit well on my wrist. It's too big. But the rubber strap on this phenomenal watch is, to me, almost perfection in terms of a combination. So I'm super interested that Tudor have done that with this watch, and they've thrown it in for free. I think that's cool. I think it looks awesome. It kind of looks similar to this, basically. So of course I'm going to like it. Like, you know, always have variations of a theme on the one thing, right? But I think that's super interesting that they've done that, because you recall, and perhaps because it's at a different price point as well, but you'll recall when I did my hands-off review of the Tudor Ranger, when that came out, it was 3 different bracelets, and I specifically made a point of saying you should probably buy it with the steel bracelet and acquire the other ones later, because they're cheaper than getting the steel bracelet after the purchase. So it's interesting that they've thrown this one in for free, but look, I think from memory, the Ranger is significantly cheaper than this, so probably makes sense from that point of view. The number of the watch is the MT5400. So it's a non-magnetic silicone balanced spring. It's been certified as a chronometer by the Swiss Official Chronometer Testing Institute. So it's COSC certified, guys, which most of us know what that is, because I've taken us through that process now. Average variation of the daily running of a watch of -4 to +6 seconds. So, I mean, like I said, I own Panerai, so I'm not after like a perfect timing watch. Just, it doesn't happen with a Panerai. So I'm not too fussed about that. Tudor also insist on a -2 to +4 second variation when it's completely assembled, so they're even more rigorous. I couldn't find on their website, but I know Tudor also do the master chronometer testing as well on some of their watches like Omega, but not this one. At least not that I could find on the website. It's pretty obvious on the website with the watches that they do it with, so it's not all of them. It's waterproof to 200 meters. So if you recall, in order to be a dive watch, you need to have a minimum of 100 meters, but they generally sit between 200 and 300 with the major variations of 1,000 feet or whatever for some of the more hardcore deep dive watches. Now let's talk about it. And you know, let's be fair here. I don't have it hands-on. Again, I would love to. I mean, I would love to do all of my reviews one day where they're purely hands-on, and you know, I'm sure that day will come, but we are not there yet. So thank you for your patience and your support on that. But let's just have a general discussion about what we've seen with it online and how we feel about the watch, because I think what I said at the start of this video stands. It looks great. I actually really like it on the papers, so to speak. It does look like a Submariner. Now I know if I'm getting that watch, I'm not getting the Submariner. It's not going to get rid of the itch to have a subby. It just isn't, right? But it's $6,000 versus, I think a subby's about 14 now, based on what I was looking at the other day. So that is a big difference. But again, it's $6,000 for a Tudor. What do people think about that? I think it might be too much. But what do I know? Because again, I'm still learning in this space, right? But it's $6,000. The Ranger to me felt like a really good watch. I know some people have commented that it's really fucking boring, or you know, it should have been designed differently. But you have to remember too, like, I've just been really sitting with Tudor for a few months, to be honest. So my impressions of Tudor are very new, and they're not coloured by any of the history of Tudor, other than what I've found very briefly when I'm, you know, talking about the history and things like that. So I don't have any preconceived ideas of what Tudor is or what it should be. I'm just going purely off first impressions and looks. So for me, the Ranger was a cool, simple watch. And at the price point it was sitting at, I thought that was pretty reasonable for what it was, right? And it had a really cool history to it. And you know I love a bit of history with my watches. This one as well has a little bit of a history to it. I don't find it as exciting as the history of the Ranger. And then again, the price point, $6,000. It's a dive watch though, so you know, the workmanship, the craftsmanship and everything that has to go into that kind of watch for the complications, yes, maybe. But again, I mean, I've just done a review on a Panzera Pro Diver, you know, and sure, it's got a Japanese movement. It's not it's not Swiss made, Swiss certified. But shit, it's like $500 after you get your 40% first purchase discount. So that's a big difference, $500 to $6,000. So is the differential worth it? And I know I'm comparing apples and oranges, but it's just to put it in perspective, right, guys? I really would like some robust conversation in the comments about this, because I'm happy to pick it up again in the Friday fact check just to talk through a little bit more. But overall, my first impressions of the watch is it looks great. I can see the market it's appealing to. It wants to cross over. It wants to appeal to the sports people out there, men or women, he, she, they, but it also wants to appeal to everyone, you know, like it wants to appeal to people to wear that watch out, you know, out about on town, you know, things like that. So I think it crosses over really well from that just aesthetic point of view, for sure, like with the size and what it looks like and the elegance of it. So from that point of view, I like it. I mean, I think it's hilarious in a really bad way that you can't wear a high-end steel sport watch out and about in certain cities at the moment because people are stealing them. I mean, they're a sports watch. So that's pretty crazy. You know, and to that point, I wouldn't comfortably wear my $6,000 Tudor if I owned it out and about in LA, based on everyone's comments from my last video, because I wouldn't want to run the risk of having that stolen. So, you know, like, it's a bit ridiculous. But anyway, I digress. So let me know your thoughts. Initial impressions. If I get hands-on ever with this watch, I'll do a different video, obviously. But on face value, it looks like a good quality watch. I just question the price point. Please feel free to tell me I've lost my mind on that if you think I have, or if you agree with me. Yeah, and so that's my initial thoughts on the brand new Tudor Pelagos 39. Until next time, thanks guys.